Good evening, Mr. Swamijit. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Banerjee, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Alok. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible, sir.
Voice is clear. Yeah.
Yeah, clear.
Very good.
I believe there were some technical glitches and some audio issues. Unfortunately, can't help there. Whatever. So let me introduce the speaker for tonight. We have Mr. Alok Bhardwaj. He is a Vice President from System Air India Private Limited and heads Design, R&D, Laboratory and CSD divisions. He has a rich experience of 42 years in HVAC and our industry in sales, design, production, R&D streams, and he is the past president of ASHRAE India chapter, ISHRAE Delhi chapter, and has worked as secretary, treasurer, regional director of ISHRAE HQ. He is a core committee member of AHU Standards Committee. So, without further ado, I will now make Mr. Alok Bhardwaj the host so that he can just have a look and set up his presentations, and that way we can start out the program. So, Mr. Bhardwaj, you are the host now.
Thank you, Mr. Banerjee. First of all, I'd like to check whether I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
Okay. And
Yeah. Mr. Bhardwaj, can you just give me your host rights for 1 second, please? Just a minute. I need to put it on Facebook. Mr. Bhardwaj?
yeah.
I can just I start the recording and I make you the host again. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Bhardwaj, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Sunajit.
Yeah, your presentation is visible. You can put it on presentation mode.
Yeah,
Perfect.
is it okay?
Perfect. Please go
Yeah.
ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, friends. As Ms. Banerjee has already introduced, my name is Alok Bhardwaj, and I'd like to, cover a very important subject which is very valid in the current scenario. That's the importance of certified air handling units, and I would like to give an overview to all of you. What exactly does it mean? Before that, before we move forward, I would like to, the general perception about an air handling unit is what in the industry, that it is just you have certain profiles, aluminum profile structure, make some double skin panels, and just make a box out of it, get some bought out components like fans, coils, and the filters, fix all the components in this box, and the HU is ready. And what what we call it, it's HU is in general perception. It's just like a box, nothing else. But in reality, if you see, there are a lot many things which go into this, and the reality is very far away from this myth. In fact, the air handling unit, it's a really an engineered product, and it is, I would say, if in an HVAC installation, if the chiller is called a heart of the air conditioning HVAC system, I would say the next important product is air handling unit. So it's an engineered product, and we design, all of us know that we design this to maintain the desired ventilation in the area, the temperature, the relative humidity, and the pressure. Not a difficult task. If somebody wants to achieve all these things, what normally I've seen throughout my career, people doing that, just oversize the air handling units, put a lot of safeties into that. And when it will run, definitely it will cool you, it will give proper ventilation. But we are doing this at what cost? We are doing this and we are wasting the energy, which is the need of the hour today. We need to conserve the energy as much as possible, and we should go into the energy efficient products. You would have also seen them nowadays, the concepts of net zero energy buildings, green buildings, that is catching up. So the oversizing is not the answer. Now, how to offer the right age? The first and foremost important thing is, let's stop talking about, okay, 2 CFM per square foot, 3 CFM per square foot for this application. So let's stop that. Let us obtain the correct input parameters from the user. Like, as all we do, all as HVAC engineers, we do the load calculations. We calculate the right kind of air quantity which has to be supplied to the area in order to get the right temperature and the relative humidity. We have to choose the energy efficient components. That's again very important. We should perform the component reliability test. Component reliability test means when I'm taking whatever components we are using in the air handling unit, go as small as a normal screw or a nut or a bolt. We should do the reliability test of each and every component so that it lives throughout the life, the maintenance life of the air handling unit. It should work. And of course, needless to say, we need to follow the good manufacturing practices during production. And if we follow all these things, I would say that we would have a good design of air handling unit. But let us look at one thing. What does the purchaser get? Suppose I'm a purchaser of the air handling unit. Whatever I tell the manufacturer to give me a particular design of the air handling unit, giving the certain parameters, I should get that. But I as a purchaser, I do not have any, choice. I got to believe you guys. Whosoever is giving me the air handling unit, I tell him my parameters. He supplies me the air handling unit. I have to believe in what he gives me. And I would know the actual performance only after I install and commission that particular air handling unit. And if air handling unit does not perform, what happens? It is too late. For me as a user, it is too late and I do not have any recourse. I can do some sort of firefighting or something, try to come to as close as possible to the required parameters, but not. I can't. My project is at such a stage I can't do anything about it. I can only penalize the manufacturer. Okay, look, I had asked you to give me 10,000 CFM of the air handling unit. You are giving me only 8,000 CFM. Okay, I penalize you. But the fact remains that I will have to live with that air handling unit throughout the rest of the life of the unit. Now, this thing is going on, but certain evolution started in the industry. If we all of us know that worldwide, whatever air handling units are offered, they have some kind of certification. And Indian industry, HU industry, lately, if we talk about 7-8 years back, 10 years back, it did not have any much exposure on this certification. Nobody knew about it, what an air handling unit certification is all about. We were initially, all of us know, I think all stalwarts will know that we used to have this single skin air handling units originated from Musa Haji Patrawala, Carrier 39H design. And that's what was being offered. And slowly we moved to the double skin industry, but still the certification was not involved. And shifting from no certification to full certification, it's a huge leap forward. So as I said, 15 years back, some movement started towards the certification in Indian HU industry. The first thing came, there were labs which in India, they started offering, the mechanical performance testing of the air handling units as per EN 1886 standard. So people started, saying that, okay, my mechanical characteristics are tested in a local lab and these are XYZ. Also, the AHRI certification for the heat transfer coils, that also came into the Indian industry as per AHRI 410, followed by MCAR certified fans. So if you see all of these, what basically we are talking about, everybody started thinking about getting the individual components tested or certified. So it was like a coil or a casing or a fan. I mean, like we were just talking about the individual components to be certified. What happened? Consequent to that, as the number of these individual certification participants started increasing, the third-party certification agencies worldwide also started focusing on Indian air handling unit industry. They were not doing so because they knew that industry doesn't want it, but now they started doing that. And also the Indian manufacturers also started thinking, getting into the product certifications. And as a consequence to that, all the users, the consulting engineers and everything, they also started demanding a certified product. So it was basically the awareness had started and the people started talking about it in a big way. So what are the options available? As on date, if we talk about what are the options available? Option number one is testing of the mechanical characteristics of the casing alone as per EN 1886 standards in the local labs. Second is the AHRI certification. The AHRI certification is talking about the coil AHRI certification as well as the casing AHRI certification. We'll go into the detail a little later in the slides. And third is that ISHRE and Rama as a joint venture, we started writing the testing standard for the air handling units sometime back, a couple of years back. I'm supposed to be the proud member of that particular core committee in writing that standard. Splendid work done by Sri and Rama put together, in at least starting something for in Indian context. And the last but not the least is the Eurovind certification of the air handling. We'll go one by one what exactly each thing means. If we talk about the first thing, that is the testing of the mechanical characteristics of the casings as per EN 1886 standard locally. First, like to understand what are the mechanical characteristics. Mechanical characteristics is casing strength, the casing air leakage, the thermal transmitters, thermal bridging, filter bypass leakage, and the acoustic performance. Remember, this is all tests are done only on the HU casing. So these tests are performed in the Indian laboratory. We do not have any facility in India to test the acoustic performance of the air handling units. And the one-time test, suppose I get it tested today, that will go forever. That certificate I'll be using forever, even if the manufacturer has changed the design a number of times. We are not having any subsequent validation of this certification. And there are no audits, and there's definitely not enforceable. So yes, I can get my casing tested locally, but as a customer, I do not know whether, whatever test report I am seeing from the manufacturer, whether that is whether that kind of casing is even manufactured today or not. So there's no validation and it's not enforceable. So that was number one. The second, if we talk about the AHRI certification, I think most of you are aware of this AHRI. AHRI is an established certification agency incorporated in the USA. They have a coil certification program as per AHRI 410. They have a testing of mechanical characteristics of the casing as per AHRI 1350. But the operating performance of the air handling unit as a whole is currently not available with AHRI. We don't need any software to do the selection, and there are no audits which are required. And of course, these tests are certified, carried out at the AHRI certified laboratories abroad. Next is Ishirarama testing standard. The basic methodology of this testing standard is it establishes ultimately one thing, which constitutes of the first parameter, that the mechanical performance values, we call it MPV. So we check and test, all the mechanical performances, like as we talked about the casing strength, leakage, thermal transmitters, thermal bridging, casing filter bypass leakage and all that. So those are tested, and we arrive at a certain mechanical performance value. We have given the weightage of some percentage to each of the casing, each of the mechanical performance. Then we have a second terminology is the thermal performance values. We do the testing, the testing has to be done, and we need to arrive at, the overall energy rating of the air handling unit. The energy classification, I mean, there are certain ways, certain tables are there by which we can find out the total thermal performance values, and the overall performance value, OPV, what we call it. I mean, that's derived out of MPV and TPV. MPV is given about 35% of the rating, the weightage, and 65% weightage goes to the thermal performance values. That's why we arrive at an overall performance value. And then based on that, we can ask for, okay, we want the OPV to be X, to be Y, to be Z. I mean, based on that, we can design and select and compare the air handling unit. Now, the major thing is this work is done, but we need the certifying body, we need the monitoring body, we need the testing body. The ISHRE and RAMA, I mean, they're working on this. And believe me, it's very, very, I mean, it's an excellent work, an excellent effort by ISHRE RAMA to come up with this standard. But we must not forget, end of the day, it should be enforceable by someone. Otherwise, anybody and everybody will keep on doing whatever they want, but unless there's somebody who wants to enforce it, that's very, very important. The last one, what we talk about, that's a Eurovent certification. The Eurovent certification, just to give a briefly called ECC, is an established certification agency of Europe. HU certification, it has a detailed program which certifies the mechanical and performance characteristics of an air handling unit. I'm underlining here mechanical and performance characteristics. It also qualifies the HU for energy rating. It also carries out the annual factory audits. That's just to ensure that whatever you declare during the testing, are you still manufacturing that? And we have the model boxes and the real units tested periodically every 1 year and 3 years. And of course, it is enforceable in a big way. So since, just to give an overview, currently, if we talk in worldwide, if we talk about ECC is the only program which certifies the performance of HU as a whole. Let's understand one thing very, very clear. It certifies the performance of HU as a whole. And it ensures that whatever customer wants, whatever he has specified, he will get that performance. It is certified. And it's, of course, enforceable. And let's go into a little more detail about what Eurovent certification is. As I said, it is it's a third-party certifying agency located in Paris. It covers all, not only air handling unit, it covers practically all the fields of HVAC&R, that is heating, ventilation, air conditioning, refrigeration, and also heat recovery. It is recognized all over Europe, Asia, and beyond. The performance claimed by manufacturers is validated and certified. The constant verification process includes factory audits, annual factory audits, check of selection software, testing of the equipments in lab, approved by ECC. And very, very important thing, ECC does not tell you how to manufacture. They just validate what you are claiming. That's very important line to understand. Now let's go a little more details. For the purpose of certification, the the ECC has adopted two major standards, two major EN standards. One is EN 1886 2007. That's primarily for the mechanical characteristics. And EN 13053 2006 plus amendment 2011. That's for the performance characteristics. These are the basic standards what they use. Now, in order to operate these testing standards and monitor the certifications, ECC also developed two more things. One is the rating standard. Second is the operation. It talks about many things, how to do that, how to conduct the audit, how to test the unit, what should be the parameters. All those things in detail have been specified. And of course, it gives you also tells you about the tolerances, what are acceptable tolerances, how it is to be tested, how it is to be certified, how the energy classification is to be derived. So all these things in detail have been talked about. So we'll go one by one. So first, let us talk about the EN 1886 standard 2007. Is for ventilation for buildings, air handling units, mechanical performance. So this standard specifies test methods, requirements, and the classification for AHUs for units which are supply exhaust duct. I mean, these are the basic requirements which are there. These test methods and requirements are applicable for both complete unit in the separate section, except for thermal and acoustic performance. This we will cover later also. The filter bypass test is not applicable for HEPA filters, since as per this standard, what they have assumed is it is recommended to install HEPA filter downstream of the air handling unit. So it is not covered in the air handling unit. Important things, the test method for the thermal performance of casing is applicable to the comparison of different constructions, but not to the calculation of thermal losses through casing or the risk of condensation. It's very important line to understand, because some people say that, you know, okay, you have got TB2, TB3, TB1 or whatever, even then you are having the condensation. Look, all these ratings are basically generated out of a laboratory, just so that, you know, you are able to compare from manufacturer to manufacturer. Okay, look, this guy has got, I mean, it's a comparable rating primarily, but you cannot do the calculation that, okay, what are the thermal losses out of this? No. Similar thing goes to the acoustic performance also. It's applicable only to the comparison of different constructions. And of course, the certified ratings are listed on the ECC website along with the version of certified. Very important that the version of certified software has to be listed on the ECC website. Well, let's talk about the kind of tests which are carried out under EN 1886. So you will be seeing that we are looking at two columns. One is the model box, one is the real unit. The model box is nothing. It's a sort of how you are making the casing, what kind of profiles you are using, what kind of panel you are using, what kind of doors you are using. In that door, what kind of handle you are using, what kind of hinges you are using, the view window, the section jointing, the filter frame and all that. Just contains only these things. And the test is carried out. And the real unit, when we talk about, the real unit will comprise of the complete, all the component, all the possible components on which are possible. Right, it will have for sure it will have a sort of a two-tier kind of a construction, either with a heat recovery wheel or with a plate heat exchanger. It will have a supply fan, it will have an exhaust fan, it will have cooling coil, it will have heating coil, it will have pre-filter, it will have fine filter. All possible components are, and then the real unit is built, which is tested for the performance. Now, when we talk about the first test as under EN 1886, that is the mechanical strength. The mechanical strength is, the test is carried out on the model box as well as in the real unit. Second item is the air leakage. That's also carried out on model box and real unit. Filter bypass leakage, again carried out on model box and real unit. And these three components, thermal transmittance, thermal bridging, and acoustic insulation, that's carried out only on the model box. So we'll just go one by one in detail about these components. First is the casing strength when we talk about. The casing strength test is carried out, as we said earlier, in the model box and on the real unit. Needless to say, the higher the casing strength, the lesser the chances of air leakage to the structure. And as we all know that casing strength directly relates to the structural integrity. If I have got a good casing strength value, then my structure integrity is, will be really very, very good. How it is tested? The casing strength classification of the AHUs, what we do is we have to exert a pressure of 1000 Pascal on positive side as well as on the negative side, both. I mean, not simultaneously, of course, after one after the other. And if my deflection, the casing deflection, by after applying this pressure of 1000 Pascal is 4 millimeter per meter length. In 1 meter length of the air handling unit, if my deflection is 4 millimeter or less, then I fall into the category of D1. If it is more, then we go to D2, D3, and so on and so forth. Another test which is carried out on this is that we apply a maximum test pressure of plus and minus 2500 Pascal. And there should not be any permanent deformation of plus or minus 2 mm per meter of the frame of the air handling. So these are the two very, very major tests which are carried out just to find out on the integrity, the structural integrity of the casing. Second is the leakage test. Very important thing, the leakage test has to be carried out after the mechanical strength test. Once the mechanical strength test is carried out, only after we are allowed to do the leakage test. This is carried out on the model box and the real unit both. We do the testing at the positive pressure as well as on the negative pressure side also. So 400 Pascal negative test pressure carried out on both model box and the real unit. 700 Pascal positive test pressure is done only on the model box, and 400 Pascal positive test pressure is done on the real unit. All these tests are done. Needless to say, better the leakage class, less the energy loss, and of course, less the chances of the condensation. Let's see what the values are we are talking about. When we say on the negative side, 400 Pascal negative test pressure, the leakage classes go L1, L2, L3, and the L1 is we talk about 0.15 liter per second per square meter of the leakage rate. Very, very low leakage rate. And you know, the filter class what we can use over there is F9, superior to F9. L2 is 0.44 and L3 is 1.32. Again, on the 700 Pascal positive test pressure, L1 we talk about 0.22 liter per second per square meter. Again, a very, very stringent, you know, the ratings. If you compare with the SMAC 9s, you compare with DW143, believe me, these leakage rates are much, much stringent as compared to that. Then we talk about thermal bridging. Thermal bridging test is carried out only on the model box. How do we achieve that? The basic methodology is that we maintain the inside temperature within the model box as 30 degrees Celsius, and that is done with the help of small heaters and the very small fans, which just keeps on churning the air inside. And we, after the steady state temperature inside and outside model box is maintained with a delta of 20 C. That means if we are maintaining 30 C inside the model box, the outside in the chamber, we need to maintain something about 10 degrees Celsius. So we need to ensure, as per the standard regulations, we need to maintain a delta of 20 degrees C. And then what we do is we measure the surface temperature at almost 200 locations on the model box. And the highest surface temperature, even if at one location, is considered for the calculation. See, every point we'll be measuring the surface temperature, and out of 200, if suppose 199 are say X, and even the 200th location is x plus 1 or x plus something, you will use only that particular point for calculation. Balance all points will not be considered. And the better the thermal bridging class, lesser the energy loss and the chances of condensation. Now let's talk about the values and how they are calculated. This is thermal bridging. It's a factor. It's a unitless. It doesn't have any unit. And it's a ratio of delta T minimum and the delta T air. Delta T minimum is inside temperature minus maximum surface temperature, what we have recorded out of the 200 points. And delta T air is the delta of the inside and the outside air. That's 20 degree what we maintain. So if my value is 7.5 to 1, I'm in TB1, 6 to 1.75 in TB2, and so on and so forth. So that's how it is calculated. I'd like to show a typical test setup. You can see the model box which is there, and we are having the thermocouples installed at different locations. This test is repeated number of times by having the thermocouples at different points. We take the readings, and based on that, then the calculations is done, then which category we are falling into this. This is just a typical test setup. Second important point is the thermal transmittance. That is, in other words, also called the heat transfer coefficient. Again, the same setup is done. In the same setup, what we do is, instead of measuring the surface temperature, what we have to do is, we just calculate, we just find out what is the energy consumed to maintain the steady state temperature inside. See, outside is 10 degrees and inside is 30 degrees, and I'm running the heaters, I'm running the fans. So what is that kind of, energy I'm consuming in order to maintain that delta of 20 degrees? Definitely there'll be temperature losses from inside to outside. So that temperature is measured, and we also then measure that energy consumption is also measured. And then we do the measurement of the surface area, and then find out what is the heat transfer coefficient or the thermal transmittance. As we know, this is a standard formula. U, heat transfer coefficient, is P electric, whatever energy we are saying, that's the power, divided by the area, and delta T air. Delta T air is nothing but inside and outside temperature difference. So the lower the U value, the better the air handling unit construction is. So that ranges from, for T1, should be less than or equal to 0.5, and T2 between 0.5 and 1, and so on and so forth. So that's about thermal transmittance. The next is the filter bypass leakage. The air bypasses across the filter cells, decreases the effective efficiency of the filters. What does it mean? The filter cells, when the pressure is applied, when the air is being passed through the filters, definitely we have a filter frame also, a filter mounting frame. If there are leakages in the filter mounting frame, or the way we fix the filters on the filter frame, if there are, it is not very tight and the air passes through that, so the lot of air will pass through the filters, rather the filter cells, without getting really filtered. So that will affect the efficiency. And if the filters are upstream of the fan, then very important thing is, what we have to take into account is the casing air leakage between the filter and the fan to be added to the filter parameters. That's another important factor. And this test is carried out at 400 Pascal pressure at 2.5 meter per second velocity. And same way, same test is also carried out on the real unit as well. So we have to calculate. What we do is, in this test, the place where the filters are mounted, those places are blanked with the blank plates, and then we create the pressure and measure how much air is leaking through that. So if the air which is being leaked is to the extent of 0.5% of the total airflow, I fall in the category of the filter bypass leakage of F9. If it is 1%, I fall in the category of F8, and like that. So that was all about EN 1886. The next standard is EN 13053. It's a ventilation for buildings, air handling units, rating and performance of units, components, and sections. So this standard mentions the requirement and testing for rating and performance of HU as a whole. It also specified the requirements, recommendation, classification, and testing of specific components and sections of HUs. Unit should have at least a fan, the heat exchanger, and air filter when we are doing this test. Very important thing to understand, the performance of the entire air handling unit can never be defined as the sum of individual components and sections. I'm getting my coil certified, AHRI, get the casing certified separately. I cannot say that the air handling unit as a whole, how the performance is going to be. And the test is conducted on the real unit only. EN 13053 tests are conducted on the real units. Now what we are testing the aerodynamic performance, that is airflow, static pressure, power consumption, speed. We are checking the heat recovery performance, whether it is a heat recovery wheel, whether it is a plate heat exchanger, cooling duty, cooling capacities we are checking, heating capacities we are checking. Sorry. We are checking the air side and the water side pressure drops. We are also checking the filter classification. We'll take it, cover it further. What does it mean? And these are the various standards which are used. I mean, EN 13053 talks about various standards to be used while we are, you have to test the individual components, which are the standard which needs to be followed. So these are the complete list of the standards. Now the procedure, what is the procedure? A real unit which comprises of fans, cooling coils, heating coils, heat recovery wheel is selected from the approved selection software. The picture on the right hand side, what you are seeing, that is my selection software, the unit which has been selected. You will see that it has got return air filters, and it has got a heat wheel, cooling coil, heating coil, supply fan, return fan, again heat recovery wheel, then the exhaust air fan, and then it exhausts air. So it has got practically all the components. So first we need to select the unit from the selection software. Then we need to manufacture this unit. The unit is from the above selection software. You can see the unit which has been manufactured, which is shown below. And then it is sent to the ECC lab for testing. All the parameters as mentioned in the previous slide, what we talked about, the aerodynamic performance and everything, all these parameters have to be tested. Now, important thing is, it is not that we are just carrying out only one selection. We are just taking one basic selection, which you can see on the top, right top. Now, after that, keeping the unit as same, we do another 5 or 6 different selections by varying different parameters, by varying the air quantities, by varying the coil performance, see the consistency check of the coil and everything, changing the capacities, how will it, so all these 5 or 6 selections are carried out. So the actual unit is tested. All the parameters are captured while doing the test, and the measured parameter are then compared with the results shown in the selection output. All these parameters, what we talked about earlier, they are all tested in the lab, ECC lab, and they are all compared with the declaration what we have declared with all those parameters. And of course, very important, the measured parameters should be in a specified tolerances which are permitted as per the standards. Just to give an example, in the capacity, the tolerance is given just -2%. If it is, if you need 100 tons and you are 97.9 tons, rejected. You have to be 98. In the pressure drops, say +2.5%. If you're talking about 100 pascals, then what you can have is 102.5 pascal. You have 102.6 pascal, you're out. Another important thing is that the heat recovery wheel of the PHG output, what is coming on the selection software of a particular certified unit, what they do is they also check the performance of these components on the independent selection software programs which are already available with ECC, while a manufacturer of that wheel or the exchanger has got his product certified. So they check the performance with those software as well. I mean, the performance which is in the Eurovent certified software should not be better than the performance of the manufacturer. That's what they check. So in case, what happens if suppose the ratings, what are being finally achieved out of the testing, if they do not match with what I am declaring, then we have, and it is with beyond the tolerance limits, then what we have the options, either we challenge the test and we send a new unit for testing, or what we do is we re-rate the software to that extent. Important thing to understand that if my selection software is giving 100 tons and I'm actually getting 97 tons, my software will be re-rated for 90 by 3%. That means henceforth, whatever selections I will do, I will offer to my customers, the capacities will automatically get re-rated, and they will, ultimately what they will do is they will get the actual capacity, what will come out of the air handling. So very important thing. So these were the two standards what we talked about. Then we are, as I said earlier, the Eurovent wrote a couple of standards. One is the operation manual and the rating standard. This is the operation manual. It is just to see how, just to prescribe the procedures for the operation of Eurovent certified performance program, how the program has to be operated. It applies to ranges of the HUs which can be selected in a software. Important thing that you must have a selection software, and whatever can be selected in the certified software, that applies, that can be called as certified. And the declared range must have at least one size below 3 cubic meter per second. Units having temperature exceeding 100, these are certain restrictions what they have put in the program. Not very important. Next thing is the rating standard for the certification of air handling unit. That's really important. We talk about it, establishes the definition and the specification for testing and rating of the air handling units. To verify the performance ratings presented by the manufacturers by conducting the tests in an independent laboratory, which are selected by ECC. I do not have any, as a manufacturer, I don't have any choice. Whichever lab is set, given by the ECC, we have to send the unit for testing there. The testing standards adopted for tests are EN 1886 and 13053, and it covers the testing and certifying procedures. The tolerances which this standard gives the tolerances. The available external static pressure should be -4% or -15 Pascal. That means, we select the total unit for a particular total static pressure, and that includes your internal and external static pressure. The internal static pressure is in the hands of the manufacturer, and the external, the user has to give. what happens if suppose we select on a 50 mm or 500 Pascal static pressure, and if I don't use the better products inside, I have more pressure drop, the internal pressure drop, then what will be your external pressure drop available? That will be lower. Eurovent says when it testing that it should not be less than beyond 4% or 15 Pascal. Absorbed motor power should not be more than plus 3%. Heat recovery efficiency should not be less than 3%. Heat recovery pressure drop 10% plus or 15 Pascals. Water coil performance, heating or cooling minus 2%. Pressure drop plus 10% or 2 kilopascals. Water side. Radiated sound power level casing plus 3 dBA. Like this. Like this, they have described all the sort of tolerances. They're very, you would see that these are really very strict tolerances which are there. Another important factor this rating standard talks about the energy efficiency class. This is the impact of various factors which are weighted together to establish the final energy class. It consists of thermal and electrical energy. The major factors are heat recovery efficiency, the velocity, the heat recovery pressure drop, the static efficiency of fans, and the efficiency of motors, etc. And they have divided the whole this thing into 3 subgroups. One is the units for full or partial outdoor air at design winter temperature less than equal to 9 degrees. Recirculation units with the design inlet temperature always greater than equal to 9 degrees. And the standalone extractor. These are 3 classifications what we talk about. And these are certain energy classification rating charts are there. On the first column, you will see there are different classes which have been given. It is A plus, A, B, C, D, and E. You would see the corresponding values, the velocity. If you're talking about A plus, then the velocity should be 1.4. Heat recovery efficiency 83%, allowable filter pressure, heat recovery pressure drop 250 Pascal, and the FEG should be 64. It's not that in real terms all these values have to match, but as a combination of this, maybe if suppose I have a velocity of say 1.3, maybe some other component will get compensated for that. So it's a combination of this. So you would see that in each class there is A plus with an inverted arrow, and A plus is a vertical arrow. What does it mean? This means these 3 categories what we talked about. Units for full or partial outdoor, that is first category. Having recirculation units, that is the inverted arrow is the recirculation unit, and the third one is the extract. This is how sample. It's a sample selection output which is there. What you have to get out of this. You'll see a picture of their major components. This is only the one page of the selection output, and you will also have the energy performance sticker on the on the report. You will have all these classifications, mechanical characteristics mentioned on that. So that's just a sample selection output what I'm sharing with you. These are the energy stickers which are which you normally, this will be, as I showed on the report, it will be there, and also this energy sticker, whatever we get, this will be fixed on the air handling unit itself. So just to summarize the whole presentation, the third-party certification of the complete air handling unit, not the components, builds the trust and confidence for the user. I'm sure all of you will agree to this. Once you are sure that it's a third-party certified air handling unit, at least we have a trust level goes very high. And the actual result, why? Because the actual results will meet the design parameter. Periodically, it is validated by way of annual audit and testing. It is enforceable. And another important thing is whatever latest technological advancements happen in the components and the certification process, that also becomes applicable from time to time. So your certification, entire certified range, it doesn't remain, the way it was done initially, but it will keep on upgrading on its own by and by. Just our recommendation, my recommendation will be, if you are really looking for a good quality certified air handling unit, please, we must choose assembled air handling units. And if the size is the constraint, please go in for the air handling units in modules. It's very quick to assemble itself. See, why I'm saying this is, no doubt we have done everything. Any manufacturer would have, gone through an entire certification process. And as the practice remains in our country that, the units are sent to the site in the CKD, completely knocked down, and then it is erected. I'm sure all of you will agree, if, whatever a quality, what level, what you can get in the factory, you can never get at the site. No matter how qualified your engineers, your technicians may be, but factory quality will be factory quality. You cannot say that it will be equal quality. So it's really, in my opinion, it's just a mindset. If you plan the project in a right way, we can make the provisions of taking, if we know in advance that what kind of sizes we are talking about, maybe we can plan. And believe me, it avoids lots and lots of hassles. All of you would have faced a lot of hassles of getting the site assembly, maybe storing of the components and the shifting from one place to another place, getting damaged, and all sorts of things you would have come across. So I'm sure, with this, it'll be simply, if you plan it properly, then it'll not be very, very difficult to, and you get the right quality, what you are aiming at. And you should choose the best mechanical characteristics and the energy classification. Please, you can insist for the good casing strength, good air casing leakage, thermal bridging, thermal transmittance, filter bypass. Insist on energy classification on A1 or A+. Why not? When we are talking about good certified air handling unit, we should get the best. So I think with that, I end my presentation, and I'll be pleased to answer the questions of the audience to my best of my ability and knowledge.
Thank you, Mr. Bhardwaj. It was a very crisp presentation, I must say.
Thank you.
It was, I think there are some questions which I would like to read out.
Yeah.
You could answer them. Okay.
Yeah,
so the first question was from Mr. Ashwini Vatsa. He's asking that how to calculate length after coil when blow through unit.
How to
calculate length after coil when blow through unit.
Length after the coil. You're talking about, in the air handling unit size, if you're talking about.
Yeah, could be. I also not very clear on the question which is asked, but still, this is a question.
Normally, what happens is that when, if you are having a blow through kind of a scenario, probably, you at least have to have, maybe after the coil, you will have the filters. In such scenarios, you will have the filters also. And I'm sure when you have the coil and after that you have the filter, definitely you must have a door also. And you also must see that the air which is passing through the coil goes to the filters. It should be in the laminar direction. So at least in my opinion, what we should have is, if we are having a door and everything, should have at least about 600 mm minimum space what we should keep over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
The second question is how to select coil row deep manually. Please elaborate.
coil rod do it manually. I mean, that's very unfortunate part nowadays that, you know, we used to do that with tables and all these things long back, but now the softwares are there, so nobody is really going into that. But manually, it will go to a detailed heat transfer system design. I mean, that's manually. I mean, I don't think there is any. I mean, if there are, there may be some thumb rules or something. Practically, I don't believe in thumb rules, but uh, manual selection of the rose deep, I don't know whether there is any. Normally, what people talk about, I mean, if it's a normal comfort job, a 4 row deep should be enough. If you're talking about little better, air quality, probably, nowadays everybody talks about 6 row deep. And if it is a TFA, treated fresh air with the one through system, we must have an 8 row deep one. I mean, that's the thumb rule and goes on in the industry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
There's one more question, sir, which is in the chat box. It's saying, oh, there's some more, not one, some more.
Yeah, sure.
What technological advancement can be done in AHU for hospitals to cope the COVID situation?
See, frankly speaking, I would say that we are not experts on that. What has been coming, I think ISHRE has done a splendid job. They have come up with 2 manuals. One is about the normal, this thing, what should be done as far as the HVAC system is there. And second is, very detailed standard, the paper which has been taken out by ISHRE, that's on the healthcare systems.
Right, right.
I will suggest, sir, that you please, because that has been, I mean, if I say something, it will not be right on this platform, because that particular paper has been taken out by a very experts in the industry who have done a lot of research and they've taken out that paper. Please go through that. I mean, that would be very advantageous. But because just small basic things what they talk about on this is that at least you should have a MOV8 and MOV13 filters, and I mean it talks about a lot of things. It talks about UV, it talks about so many things. One important thing is when we are talking about the COVID section as such, when you are exhausting that air, and that has to be exhausted, when you're exhausting that air, that has to be exhausted through a HEPA filter.
Right, right.
A must. That is a must by exhausting. We have to create a negative pressure in that area. Correct. So my suggestion would be, please go through that document. I mean, that's a very elaborate and nice document which is there, which will give you a lot of insights.
Right. There's the 2 more questions until now. The one more question is there any special parameters regarding intertwined coil of AHU?
See, intertwined, I mean, the intertwined coil is basically nothing. If you're talking about that we have couple of, suppose in one particular air handling unit, we have to connect, say, 2 condensing units or 3 condensing units. There are 2 ways of looking at it. One is that we have 3 coils stacked one above the other, and we just connect one to one. One coil, one condensing unit, we can just connect to that. But the main problem which normally comes into that, if suppose your one condensing unit is not working, then your 1/3 of the coil or half of the coil will be totally dry, and your balance portion of the coil will be wet coil. So as you know that the pressure drop in the wet coil and the dry coil are different. So the dry coil will have a lower pressure drop. So the more chances of more air passing through that, because the air passes, I mean air or water, I mean it follows the path of the least resistance. So it will keep on following the dry coil. So what is normally done is that if there are suppose 3 condensing units, every 3rd or every 4th tube is connected to the one condensing unit. So we make it interwound so that we have the entire coil is functioning in the same way, and we are having the same wet coil. So that's basically what intertwined we talked about.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
There's one more question on the Q&A. Sir, factory testing parameters are okay. at site after operations of 2 to 3 years, any testing required to carry out for performance? And this is the first question. Is there any site testing required to check the performance? And I would continue with the second question also. Is it possible to test at site or revalidation of equipment?
See, if you're talking with respect to the certification, no, there is no program as such that it should be revalidated after a couple of years. The certification program only talks about the validation at the first stage. After that, it's your baby. You have to grow the baby you want it. If you do a good maintenance, it will keep on performing. If you not do a good maintenance, if you not take care of all the parameters rightly in place, then definitely it will not perform. I mean, I would say this is a more the activity of a, you have to have a in-house activity to keep on checking what are the performance levels of the each air handling unit. I mean, for that matter, it goes to any equipment or any component. We need to keep on checking. But from the certification point of view, no, there is no requirement as such for revalidating after a couple of years.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
The next question is in the chat box. When we use grammatical misses, when should we use or select double skin AHU?
Always.
that's
I would say always, because I'll tell you, the single skin HU currently, if you talk about, I mean, we are, we'll be losing a lot of energy unnecessarily. Or ultimately, if you see if a single skin air handling unit, if we talk about, people tend to insulate the HU from inside coil section onwards. So ultimately, you're not, first of all, having a good product. And secondly, you're doing an insulation after that, because otherwise, if you don't have the insulation, you'll have a lot of condensation. The entire surface of the air handling unit will be, will have a rain. It would be raining practically. So it's always, why not? I mean, I have forgotten single skin. What is the meaning of single skin now?
That was a good one. Okay, so continuing with the question, sir. In India, AHU with fresh air provision dampers used are not of very high standards. What do you say about it for manufacturing? This is, I think, a question which is very controversial. I would completely understand if you don't answer this.
No, the point is, would you repeat the question? The fresh air dampers are not
very high standards. What do you talk about? What do you say about their manufacturing?
See, the point is, why you are talking about only the fresh air dampers. You have the return air dampers also. You have the supplier dampers. That means if you are satisfied with the supplier and the return air damper quality in the manufacturing, I don't find any reason why you should not be satisfied with the fresh air. But once you talked about fresh air, I would like to cite one example. I can guarantee today, you go to the sites, whatever fresh air amounts, whatever fresh air quantities have been designed, the systems have been designed. I can challenge you, you go to any site, you will find all the fresh air dampers closed.
Right.
People do not want, they say that the technician over there, the service technician, he knows from his old good school books that, okay, you fresh air takes a lot of load. So in order to have lesser amount of energy consumption, please close the fresh air.
AC ठंडा नहीं करेगा. All these
I know.
Yeah. Right. So next question is, what precautions should be taken if the AHU is placed in ambient? Any special paint or thermal insulation, rather corrosion effect or heat and all those effects. So any special precautions to be taken?
See, I'll say a couple of things. The first thing is you need to have a proper thickness. That means the proper thickness I will define as about 50 mm insulation. You should have a thermal bridging. That's second thing. And third important thing, if you remember the very initial slides of our presentation, the component reliability test. That where comes, as I said, the very smallest component in the air handling unit, like a screw or the nut and bolt, has to be reliable. Like I can give you my example. In what we use is the all the hardwares are elusine coated, and they're tested for 1,000 hours of salt spray test, which is a really very stringent test what we can. So I mean, if the components are right, they are all tested components. They can then absolutely. And what you need to do is outdoor. You need to put a canopy on top of the unit, and that's it. No other special thing which is it.
Right. Next question is, sir, I think this is the last one. Is F7 media filter washable? If yes, then would there be any efficiency losses by washing it?
Sir, this washing technology, it's only in India. If you talk to somebody in Europe, even G4, you're talking about F7, I'll talk about G4. If you talk to them like G4 washing, everybody's will laugh. Filters are meant to be just either, blow it to the normal air and clean it. Otherwise, when you keep on washing the filter, definitely it will lose its efficiency. But that's not the answer, in my opinion. We should not. If we are really serious about the right efficiencies, at one place we talk about the efficiencies, another place we keep on washing them. We are serious about what? Are we serious about the cost, or are we serious about the efficiencies in particular? Ultimately, it boils down to the cost, and people can do. But for sure, if you just blow it with if it is just blowing with the air pressure, it will be fine. It will have the same efficiency. But if we keep on, washing it and all that, then no, it will not.
Right, sir. Okay, so I think that's all about our questions, sir. People have thanked you on the chat box for your presentation. So definitely, if it's possible, if you could share the presentation, it would be great for us also.
Yeah.
If somebody requires it. So you could share. Do you have my email ID, sir?
I'll take it from
Okay.
Sandeep.
Yeah, I can take it from
Sandeep is there. Sandeep.
Yeah, yes, definitely. And thank you for your valuable time, sir. That was wonderful.
Thank you, ISRE Kolkata chapter, for giving me this opportunity to talk whatever is we have acquired, and whatever we can share with the technical knowledge. Thank you very much.